This is Dr. Dwain Woode. I'm excited to be here. That's how excited I am, right? I forgot to hit the button that says unmute. But welcome to the channel tonight. Hopefully you had a great weekend and had a great Monday and are ready to get started. We've got a great topic for you tonight. We're talking about habits. Once again, Dr. Dwain Woode, that's Wood with an E. If you are new to the channel, we help to encourage you. We help to empower you. We help to educate you here on this channel. Also, if you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments so that we know that you're here, so that we can welcome you to our area, to our family, to our community. If you have a question, go ahead and put Q in front of that question so that we know that that's something that we need to pay attention to and we'll get to. We love to have comments and we are glad that you are here. So tonight we're talking about habits. Have you ever left work or left home and gotten to the other place and realized that you were there, but you didn't know how you got there? You didn't know what turns you took. You didn't know what stoplights you stopped at. You probably didn't even remember the fact that you were on a conversation, right? But you just showed up, and that is a habit. And we are so excited tonight that we have a very special guest that's going to be joining us to help to discuss this topic. I'm not going to bring her on the screen quite yet, but we're going to go ahead and see who is out there. Maria said, I was about to tell you that you are not, that the sound is not there. So thank you, Maria, for looking at that for us. So let's see who else is out here. We've got so Maria saying, woohoo! Yeah, so excited. Let me see. Let me make one more change here. Hold on a second, guys. There we go. So Maria said, whoo, yay. And good evening to everyone. Lauren, hey, how are you? So always happy to see you on our lives. Hey, Dr. Woode, Maria's saying hello. She says, I was about to tell you you were muted. Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to get some new music, and I played the music in the scene. And anyway, so we muted ourselves, but glad that you guys are here. And then, of course, we've got Blind Guy, his wife, their life. Good day to you all. I won't ask too many food questions tonight with the favorite lady coming in. Well, that's all right. We'll answer questions. And look at this. Oh, my goodness. What's up, Ashley and my little girl? How are you? Good to see you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And then, of course, Maria. Hi, Lauren. Blind Guy, his wife. Let's see who else we have here. Tomianne, 13. Hey, Docs Woode. Tomianne, are you new to our channel? I don't remember seeing you before. Just say yes, hey, and so glad that you are here. Always glad when we have our folks, when we have our regulars and then new ones as well. So I didn't know if it was my volume or yours. Yeah, it was my volume. So you guys know, it was me. It was all me. And hopefully you are not hearing any feedback right now. If you are, let me know. The missus and I, we are actually in the same room, but we're trying something different tonight. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Very good. Very good. All right. So guys, so habits. So tonight we're talking about the power of habits. And what we want to do tonight is to just spend some time going through and talking about one of these powerful things that we have access to that we sometimes don't use, or we sometimes are using, but we don't realize that it's being done. And it is being done in a way that doesn't bring us all of the value that we need, all of the power that we need, and all of the, our thought here is to empower you to take charge of your life, right? So that power that comes with these habits is going to be very interesting for us to talk about. And so tonight, drum roll, I have with me a very special lady who I'm very fond of, and she's been here before, and that is my wife, Dr. Charmaine Woode. So let's go ahead and bring her up. Charmaine, welcome, welcome, welcome to our show tonight.
Thank you, thank you. I think you gave it away when you said the missus and I.
The missus? That's right. So, so as you guys know, Charmaine is a physician. She is a weight loss specialist, a weight loss coach. And recently she actually launched her coaching business, well, she's been doing coaching for a while, but she launched her new website. You guys saw that. You'll get to see that here tonight again when we get to that point. But she has been doing a phenomenal job with her clients. And one of the things that helps in that process is this idea of habits. And we're just so excited that you, Charmaine, were able to join us again.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited about this discussion. You know, as I work with patients, clients, we always talk about the habits that they need to create or to form to create the success that they're desiring, to achieve the permanent weight loss that they're looking for. So, as I've mentioned before, I support women in their 40s and 50s who are struggling with weight loss. I help them prioritize themselves and help them reshape their lives by achieving balance so that they can get the results that they desire. So let's talk about habits. I'm ready for the discussion. Hope you guys have lots of great questions for us tonight.
Well, awesome. Well, let's just jump right in, okay? So, habits. What really is a habit? How do we define that?
So I think probably a good definition of habit is a behavior that is done repeatedly, that it's almost subconscious. You're not necessarily aware that you're doing it. And so habits can have both positive and negative results. And habits are in play all of the time. There is no day where there's not some habit that you're doing, whether or not you're thinking about it or not, whether or not you're aware of it or not. It's just it's part of our day-to-day existence.
So is a habit the same as a routine?
I would say they're related, but it's not quite the same. I would say routines are built on habits. So habits are the building blocks of routines.
Okay, so building blocks of routine. So as we go through our day, there are things that we do that I guess we kind of construct a routine, and
Sure.
that becomes a habit, maybe. I guess one of the things that I want to ask you guys out there is: do you have habits that you are proud of, or habits that you are not so proud of? So let's do the first part. Do you have habits that you are proud of? Go ahead and put yes in the comments, right? We'll come back to that in a little bit. But if you have some habits that you're pretty proud of, go ahead and put those in the comments. So habits, these are things that we have done, things that we are accustomed to doing. Are there good or bad habits? Let's jump to that question. We'll come back to some of the other things in a minute.
So I think that you can characterize habits as good or bad. I prefer to think of them as having positive or negative effects, depending on what your goals are, right? So habits can be specific and unique to each of us, just depending on what you're trying to achieve. So I try not to ascribe whether it's good or it's bad. I try to withhold judgment and just think about, because some habits can be neutral, right? And if we get into the habit of saying good or bad and placing judgment on a habit, then it can be more difficult to change. So I prefer not to use those terms.
Okay, so not good or bad, but it is something that we do. So what are the components of a habit? So we've kind of defined it, and Maria's putting here a behavior that's done repeatedly, subconsciously, not necessarily that you're aware of, but you could just do it. But what are some components of a habit?
So before I answer that, I want to step back a little bit, right? Because I think it's important for us to understand the role that habits play in our lives. If you think about your example of driving, and this happens to me almost every day, where I get in the car, I'm headed to the office, and I do not remember how I got to the office. I just know that, okay, I'm there, I'm pulling up, I'm getting out of my car, and sometimes if I'm having a conversation that can distract me from a stop I intended to make. This is what most often happens to me. I determine I've got a stop to make, but I'm on a call and I'm almost on autopilot. And before I know it, I get to the office and it's like, man, I was supposed to stop. What happened? Well, I was on autopilot, so I wasn't thinking about it. Now, imagine if every day I got in the car and had to think about where I was going, whether or not I was turning right or left, or, the different steps I needed to take to get to the office. Imagine how much energy that would drain from me. And so habits are a protective mechanism that it's a solution that the brain comes up with to conserve energy so that our energy can be used for tasks that maybe are of higher order or tasks that are more important. So I wanted to get that out of the way before we started talking about the components of habits, just so that sets a foundation or backdrop for our conversation. The other thing I want to emphasize is that, habits can either make you or break you, right? And there's a reason why we struggle with habits because of the subconscious nature of it. And also, there are a lot of things we tell ourselves about who we are, and that determines that the habits that we develop as well. So I know I'm going about answering your question.
Well, no. I think that's pretty important for us to know that. So when we're thinking about habits, if we were not able to develop habits, then everything in our lives we would have to spend some time thinking about. So get up in the morning. So I've got to sit up, turn at the side of the bed, put my feet down, get up, go to the bathroom, open the door. So the day would be horrendous because everything that I'm doing, I would have to think about. And so by developing habits, we're able to have these kind of automatic things that we're doing, that we're working on, and we get through our day sometimes without even thinking about those little, I don't want to say mundane, but the mundane things that happen, so that we can spend our time working on some of the larger issues and larger items, tasks that we have for the day.
So to answer your question directly, there are components of a habit, and different experts have different names for it. There may be even, you will see described that one person describes a habit loop, which consists of a cue or a trigger, routine, and then a reward. I like James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. I like his description of habits, where he lists it as 4 parts. So he lists the cue or the trigger, he lists the craving, he lists the behavior, and he also lists the reward. So those are the components of a habit. And if you think about, for example, the habit of the habit of, say, I'm trying to think of a relevant example, of brushing your teeth, right? So the cue could be, okay, it's bedtime, right? And we know that for most people, they brush their teeth before they go to bed. So that is the cue. It's bedtime. Automatically, I know it's time to brush my teeth, and I head to the bathroom, and that's what I'm doing. And the behavior then would be the actual brushing of your teeth. So what's the reward? The reward is knowing that you've got a clean mouth, you've got fresh breath. So that's the habit loop. And habits always have a reward. Otherwise, we would not develop the habits. So in short, the habit loop consists of those 3 components: the cue, the behavior, and the reward.
Okay, so the cue, the behavior, the reward, the habit loop. And so so whether we whether we know it or not, actually, right? We are in that loop because either we are, so whatever the reward is, right? There is something that cues us to get to that reward. And so we're constantly in that loop. Is it possible to create a habit and not know that you're doing it?
Oh, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. For example, we get into habits unknowingly because there is a reward at the end of it. So I sometimes have a habit of eating when I'm not hungry, right? It's a habit I've worked on over time. I became aware that I've done it, that I was doing it, and decided, okay, well, that's not really serving my goals, so I needed to break that habit. But what was driving it is I tend to eat when I'm tired. And it's a habit I developed in school, undergrad, medical school, where I'm staying up studying late, and so I need energy. And I would reach for food. It wasn't necessarily that I was hungry, but I was in a low energy state, wanting energy, and so food was what I reached for. And that was a habit that I developed unconsciously. Now, once I became aware that that was the habit I developed, I then decided to take some steps to change it.
Okay, all right. So unconscious, it can be there, that loop that you're in, the cue, the behavior, the reward, and so even though you may not know, you're still in that loop. Let's pause here for a minute and let's see what's going on out here. So I see Lakita. She said one of the habits that she is proud of is that she wakes up at 6 a.m. to get her daily goals started, and I can get a lot done before 9 a.m. Wow, that's amazing. I love that. Let's see. Hi. Jeanette is saying hi, Maria. So welcome, Jeanette. She said good evening to everyone. And Maria says routines are built in habits. Built in habits. So very, very good. So let's get back to this habit idea, right? So we've defined it. We've got these components of the habit loop. How do you really form a habit, right? So I've heard that it takes 21 days is what people say to form a habit. Is that true? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I actually disagree about the length of time it takes to form a habit. It depends on the habit you're forming, right? So if I touch a hot stove, I get the feedback almost immediately that that's not a pleasant experience. That's going to burn my finger. And that habit is formed immediately that I'm not going to do that, right? As opposed to another habit, perhaps exercising. Right, that's a common one. A lot of people try to form the habit of exercising, and that is going to take some commitment. It's going to take intentionality. It's going to take consistency, and so that habit is formed over time. So it could be anywhere from 20 to 90 days. I think the accepted wisdom now about the length of time to form certain habits is roughly about 66 days.
Wow, so 66 days to form a habit. So not necessarily that 21 days that I've heard so often that, okay, because I think if I do it for 21 days, I'm good, right? So I'm in there, right? That's solid, and I'm good for forever. Well, so how about the opposite? So we've talked about forming habits, and we've got this loop, right? How about breaking a habit?
So we've got the habit loop, but let's talk about forming a habit just a little bit more because we want to do just the opposite of what we do to form a habit. So to form a habit, you want to make sure that you have several things in place. You want to make sure that it's obvious, right, to form the habit. You want to make sure it's easy. You want to make sure it's satisfying. So let's take, for example, you want to form the habit of going to bed on time. So you want to set your environment that's conducive to going to bed on time, right? So you want to make it obvious. So obvious is, you know, the benefits of going to bed on time. So you want to make sure you do that. But to make it easy, you take, for example, the TV out of the bedroom, right? Because if you go in the bedroom and the TV is there, you may become distracted and decide, well, let's just Netflix and chill instead of getting to bed as you would like. So to make it easy, you want to make sure that you're setting the right environment. And you want to make sure that it's attractive. So you want to think about the benefits of going to bed on time and that it's satisfying. So satisfying is, you know, that when I go to bed on time, I wake up, I have more energy, I'm in a better mood, I'm more productive at work. So all of those things need to be elements in setting the right habit.
Okay, so so having all of those things in place will help us set the habit, and you said we just do kind of the reverse of that in order to break a habit?
Yes. So let's take, for example, you want to break the habit of smoking, right? So instead of making it obvious, right, making the cigarettes obvious, hide the cigarettes. So make it so it's not so obvious, right? Or make it invisible. The other thing you want to make is make it difficult. So if you don't have a lighter, then even when you do have the cigarettes, it's hard to smoke because you need the lighter to smoke. You want to make it unattractive, right? So you want to think about the downsides of smoking, and there's no, shortage of those. And you want to make it dissatisfying. So imagine if the only time you allowed yourself to smoke was if you had to go outside in the cold. So you want to kind of do the opposite of the things that you need to put in place to build a good habit or build a habit that leads to the positive results you're seeking for, in order to break a habit that gives you negative results or negative effects.
Okay, all right, I like that. Guys, let me take a pause here and do some station identification. So if you have not already done so, please go ahead and look at us on all of our social media platforms, LinkedIn, TikTok, of course, here on our channel, Twitter, and then Buy Me a Coffee. We would love for you to go to those social media platforms, share with your family and friends this video, right? Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe, and help them to join this community. We do all of those social platforms because we want to give value, but we want to actually get those folks to come over here as well, right? We want them to be on our YouTube channel. We want to grow this. We're hoping that this is a place where you can find education, where you can be empowered, and you can be motivated, right? So we want to be able to do that here, and we love the fact that you are joining us. If you want to see more content, more exciting content, then of course our lives every Monday at 7 right here, our TikToks on Fridays, and then every day on our Twitter feed. Also, if you are on LinkedIn, that's a place that we do put content on. So if you're not there, go ahead and do that as well. If you are out there right now and you are listening, right, if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and sign up for YouTube so that you can like us, so you can join us, so you can get notifications when we are putting out new content. So just glad that you are out there, that you're here tonight. All right. So back to habits. So we've got the habit loop. We've learned about how to create a habit and then how to break a habit. Are there certain ways that we should go about thinking about this? How practically do we do that? So we've got the habit loop, we've got the cue, we've got the, and we got ended up with the reward. But how do I do that? How do I do that on a daily basis?
So I think a couple of things, right? So it's important that we set an identity for who we are, who we want to become. And that helps to shape our habits. If you think of someone who is a smoker, but they're trying to break the habit of smoking, their identity, either as a smoker or a non-smoker, is going to determine their behavior. For example, if someone offers them a cigarette, if they say, no thanks, I'm trying to quit smoking, as opposed to, no thank you, I do not smoke, right? Do you see the difference? That in one sense, in one case, they're still identifying as a smoker. And in the other case, they're identifying as a non-smoker. Which do you think would be easier for them to smoke? Or which identity do you think would be easier for them to say, yes, I'll go ahead and take this cigarette?
Well, I think identifying as I don't smoke would be the one.
Yes, of course, right? And I think I say that to illustrate the point that what we identify as or who we identify as shapes our behavior. Right? When you say, I am something, then the subconscious mind wants you to be right. And it's going to help guide you to behave in such a way where it's right all the time. And that's the importance of identity. So that's helpful as you're trying to determine what habits you want to create and which habits you want to break. So who are you? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? That's important. The other thing, several weeks ago, I think you started off the year talking about setting goals, right? Setting big goals. And too often we get caught up in the results as opposed to the process. So when you set a goal, which is great, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking goal setting. But goals can have a tendency to become more results focused. And what I would say is become more process focused or more system focused, more habit focused. Think of the habits you need to develop or you need to create in order to achieve the goals that you've set. If you focus so much on the result, then you set yourself up where you don't feel like you've accomplished anything until you've actually achieved that result. So until you get to that end goal, you don't feel like you're making progress and you're not happy with what's happening. And if you think about, as you're on your way to accomplishing the goal, think about the habits that you're creating, right? If the same thing that you need to achieve, the same things you need to do to achieve the goal, once you reach the goal, are the same things you need to do to maintain. So that's why it's so important to focus on the habits that you need to create.
Okay. So identity and then focusing on these goals. Now, here's a question. We talked several shows ago about our why, right? What are we doing? Who are we? Is that important to be able to get goals that are in line with what we want to do? Is it important for us to know what our why is, what our purpose is? Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, well, definitely. So when you set goals based on your values or your reasons for achieving the goal, that helps to motivate you. That helps to keep you committed to the process, committed to achieving the goal. But I see the habits more so as the building blocks or the foundation. And I think it's important to get those habits in place, particularly because a lot of times when we reach our goals, we tend to stop. And if you've been focused on creating the habits, once you reach the goal, you're going to continue with those habits so that you can maintain your goal. It's like, for people who want to lose weight. Well, they work real hard for a specified amount of time. They lose the 10 or 20 pounds, whatever it is they want to lose, and then they stop. They stop doing the things that got them there. And what I'm saying is, when you create the habits that get you to the goal, once you achieve your goal, you can then maintain it. The tendency is, okay, I'm here, I'm good. I'm going to stop. Let me go back now and start doing some of these things. Well, no, that's not what you want to do. You want to make sure that you continue and building on the habits that you've created and put in place.
Right, and so that idea in the weight loss and weight management, if you will, or even in other areas, is this idea of maintenance, right? So that's the part where a lot of people kind of lose their way. I mean, they're able to build, they're able to achieve a goal, they're able to establish a routine, a habit, if you will, but then kind of maintaining that is where they kind of fall down. Yes,
exactly. And I think it's how they approach it, right? So once again, they focus on the goal and not on the habit and not on who they want to become and who they identify as. If you identify as a person who is at a healthy weight, then you're going to continue to do those behaviors that keep you at a healthy weight.
Very good. Thank you for that. Let's see. Let's back up here and let's see who we've got talking to us here tonight, Dr. Charmaine. I'm going to Lakita. I see that comment there. I'm going to hold that for our question. So Maria says, when you build a habit, like for example, exercising, you need commitment, intentionality, and consistency. I love that. Thank you for that, Maria. How to break a habit: make it invisible, make it difficult, make it unattractive, make it dissatisfying. And Lakita, I'm going to skip your question for now. Here's one. I'm gonna pull this one up because it goes in right what we're saying. So Lauren says, interesting information regarding habit loop. What was the name of the book you were referencing, Dr. Woode? So let's stop there and pause for a minute and see if we can get that book.
So the name of the book I reference is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Another book that I find very helpful as it talks about habits and is a book by Darren Hardy. It's called The Compound Effect. And in that book, he talks about the small habits, the small choices that we make that lead to large shifts.
All right, thank you. And then back to Lauren's comment. She says also that term, setting your identity and deciding who you want to be, she said, hitting home tonight. Well, thank you for that. All right. So Yeah, thank you guys. So, can you imagine the the power, the satisfaction, the ability to take charge of our lives and reach our goals, right? That word goals. If we were able to train ourselves to do habits or incorporate habits that would help us be successful. I mean, this is the power really of of habit.
Exactly, exactly. So, your habits determine your success, right? Your If you think of I saw lots of comments yesterday about football games. I don't follow football, but I am aware that we've got two teams that are headed to the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks, right? And back to the idea of results focused versus habits focused. So think about those football teams. I believe probably four teams played yesterday. Do you think that each of those teams, each of those coaches, all of those players had the same goal? Yes, right? So they all had the same goal, which was to win, right? All those four teams in the playoffs, they want to go to the Super Bowl. So they all have the same goal. But what made the difference between those who came out victorious and those who did not? I would suggest that it's the habits. So it's the habits of thought, the habits of behavior. That's what truly determines the results that we get. And not just our results or not just our goals, but the habits that we put in place to help us achieve those goals.
Wow, wow. So those thoughts and hold on guys, we're coming to a thought here in a minute, but those thoughts really can dictate the reality. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, so how would you kind of tie all of this together? What so we've defined habit. We've talked about the habit loop. How to develop a habit, how to break a habit, the change in or defining who you are, right? How do we put that all together?
So I think it's important whenever you want to make a change, I would say it starts with awareness. So you want to take inventory of where you are and what you want to achieve. So you want to become aware. One of the things I would suggest is just kind of look at your daily life. Write down all the things you do in a day. If you're wanting to create a better life for yourself or become the best version of you, take a look at everything you do in a given day and determine whether or not so identify the habits because they're there, whether or not you think about them or not, and determine whether or not those habits are going to help you achieve the results you want, whether they're neutral, they're not going to have any impact, and whether or not they're going to detract or prevent you from the results that you want to create. I would start there. It's the beginning of the year. Everyone is kind of focused on what they want to happen in 2022. So do an inventory and just take a look. I resisted the labeling of habits as good or bad earlier in the conversation because when we look at what happens to us or what we do on a daily basis, we want to be more of an observer as opposed to someone who's judging the behaviors. Because if you're judging yourself, then your defenses go up. And we want to be open and just consider what we want to achieve. So if you create a list, it could be potentially very exhaustive. But if you start with, okay, I get up in the morning at 6:30, you just write that down and determine whether or not that is a habit that serves you and your goals. So perhaps as you're looking at your list, waking up at 6:30 doesn't get you as far ahead as far as the things you want to accomplish that day as, say, getting up a little earlier. So for you, waking up at 6:30, I would put a negative by that. Not because it's a bad habit, but because it's not going to get you the results that you want, right? The next thing is then you wake up at 6:30, then you brush your teeth, right? So is that a habit that's going to get you the results you want, or how does that fit in? That may be a neutral habit, and it doesn't have any impact on the things that you say you want to accomplish this year. And just go through your day like that. So do you exercise next? Do you have breakfast? Just create a list and then determine whether or not those habits are going to serve you and the goals and what you want to create for yourself in 22, or whether or not they're not, or whether or not they're neutral. For those things that you determine are not going to serve you, then look at what you need to do to change them. And as we're creating this life, or this new you in 2022, we want to be careful about being realistic, about doing too many things at once, or trying to change too many things at once. The habits you want to create are habits that you can build on.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So taking inventory, very important in terms of being able to be successful in habits. So thank you for that. We're going to come back to that thought in a minute. So guys, let's go ahead and we're going to hop over here and do our thought for the day. There is some dissension about who said this. Some people have said Albert Einstein, and some people have said William James. And the thought is this: the greatest discovery of our generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitude and mind. So let me say that again. The greatest discovery of our generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes and mind. And that's what we've been talking about tonight, right? This idea of habit. So it all begins in the mind. So an event happens, and your thoughts about that event dictate how you feel about the event. The feeling of the event, feeling of those thoughts, is what dictates your action, and then your action dictates your reality. This is something that I didn't come up with, right? But if you look at Brooke Castillo, who's one of the people I listen to, she talks about this, about how do we go about living every day, right? And it all begins with our ideas. It all begins with our thoughts, with our minds. And so if we can change our thoughts, then we can change our reality. And so as we talk about building habits, as we talk about going into that habit loop, it all begins in the mind. As a famous book says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, right? So that's it. As we think, that dictates what our reality is. So begin changing the mind, begin changing our thoughts, begin changing, and if we can do that, then we change our feelings, the feelings change our actions, and our actions change our reality. And boy, what a powerful thought, what a powerful tool that is for us to be able to do. We are so happy that we were able to talk with you tonight. Why don't we go ahead and see if we have some questions? And I'm gonna run back and pick up one that we had from From Blind Guy, Lakita is saying, she says, I know I said I wouldn't add food questions, but you mentioned energy, and we noticed that whole foods tend to energize us. The dense nutrition is helpful. Well, thank you for saying that, Lakita.
So I think that's an important point that you make, because as we're trying to create habits, we need to find ways of supporting the habits, right? So making sure that you are getting the proper nutrition so that you are so that you're energetic and that you're able to even to even take on forming a new habit. That's important, and it's not something that is insignificant, right? So there are things that you can do to support yourself when you're wanting to create changes or create new habits. You can make sure that you have a supportive environment. So your physical environment, that's your physical surroundings and also your physical body. Your mental environment. So we've talked about thoughts, right? But what's going on up here? And how is that contributing? And how is that detracting from the habits that you want to create? You know, if you are not identifying, right, as someone who does the habit that you want to create, that's going to impact your behavior. And socially as well, we know that you hang around people who are similar to you. So who is in your circle? Who do you have in your circle? Are they supporting the habits and the changes that you want to make, or are they not supporting that? Right? One of the tools that you can use as well when you want to create a new habit is to set an intention. Right? So if you want to create the habit of going to the gym, for example, right? You could set an intention and create an identity around that. So I am a person who wakes up and goes to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's your intention, and that is also your identity. That's going to help support the habit. Another tool you can use is something called habit stacking. You want to associate the new habit you want to develop with a habit that you already do. And remember, we said you have lots of habits that you already do, whether you're aware of them or not. For example, if you're prescribed a medication and you're not good with taking medication, then if you associate taking the medication with something you already do, such as brushing your teeth, right? So when I wake up in the morning, right after I brush my teeth, I'm going to take my medication. Chances are you're going to be able to incorporate the habit of taking your medication more easily than if you didn't associate it with something you're already doing. So those are some tools you can use to help create the habits.
Awesome. I think I saw a question here, and it goes back to tools. And let's see, Lakita is asking, are there any tools you can give us to add to our toolbox for helping children become more independent with chores? The habit of doing chores. Now, Lakita, if you find that out, let us know, okay? because we need that.
No, one of the this is not a parenting show, but one of the things we did, we created a list for our son, and we paid him a little commission on each task that he completed. And, you know, he was, of course, excited about earning some money that he could spend as he saw fit. And also, it gave him a sense of responsibility. So that's one thing that we've tried that works for us.
All right, let's see. She says, habit stacking is something I can implement for us and with our children. For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hey, Warren G, how are you doing? Welcome to our area. Welcome to our family. Welcome to our community. We are so glad you're here. Glad that you are getting some value. Lakita says it's magical when you change your mindset. It is so powerful. It is so powerful when you can change the mindset, because it is where everything begins, right? As we talked about, an event occurs. Your thoughts about that event dictates how you feel about it. How you feel about it dictates what you do, that is your action, and then your action is what is ultimately the result of where you are, okay? So if you want to be successful, then we begin by changing the mind, and as we build those habits on a daily basis, then those habits will help us to automatically go to our destination, right? Because remember, we don't want to have to think about every single detail every day. So if we build those habits that help to guide us, that help to automatically take us in that direction, then things become so much simpler, so much easier for us to do. And it all, as you say, begins with changing the mind. All right. Well, guys, I am excited today, once again, to have my wife with me. And I'm going to give her a moment to just talk about coaching. So tell us a little bit about coaching and what you do.
So I'm excited that I've been able to help ladies manage their stress, prioritize themselves, achieve more balance in their lives, and, reach their goal of losing weight. And it's one of the things that gives me a lot of satisfaction. I love hearing them talk about how simple or how simpler their life has become, implementing some of the strategies that we've created as I've supported them. Love hearing them talk about how they've reframed their thoughts about food and how they've mastered their relationship to food. So food no longer controls them, but they control the food that they eat. And we talk about freeing up real estate, right? We talk about habits. One of the things creating habits does is it frees up real estate in your mind so you can focus on other things. Now, think about if you're struggling with weight and you're consumed with thoughts about food all day long. Once you're able to master that, or to master your relationship with food so that it's no longer all-consuming, think about the real estate in your mind that is now free to focus on being more productive at work, being more present for your family, being more present in your relationship, and truly creating the life that you want. And so I'm excited about the work that I do. And if anyone wants more information, I can be found. You can reach me at charmainewoodemd.com.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for being here. Once again, guys, we love what we do. I love what I do. And I am working to build this community, a place where we can come and ask questions, we can educate, we can empower you, right? And we can encourage you in this space. As you notice, we talk about the physical body, We talk about medical issues, and we also talk about things that help you achieve your goals, because ultimately that's what I want to do, right? I want to create a place where you can come and learn, where you can be educated, you can be empowered, you can be encouraged to take charge of your health, take charge of your life, and to live a healthy, successful life. But thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, well, it's been my pleasure. I've enjoyed our conversation once again, and I look forward to another opportunity.
All right, guys, this is Dr. Dwain Woode from Diabetes and Endocrine Wellness Center and the Light Away, educating the public for a better you. Let's see if we can get some music and get out of here. All right, so let's see.